Hey guys, it's Zan, and welcome to the very much requested Palace Skip tutorial. Palace Skip is well known as TTYD's most famous and most difficult trick, with the original method found on the Japanese version of the game. The English version has had a few methods found for it as well, and has evolved to the point of being very similar to the JP version. The trick is a frame-perfect trick that requires a ton of practice. Be prepared to spend lots of time on this trick. This trick can be broken down into 3 sections. Section 1 is the delayed Goombella buffer to get tech storage. Section 2 is the seam walk to get into position. And Section 3 is the Yoshi teleport. Section 2 is the only difference in the English version from the Japanese version due to the way partners are coded in the English version. For the delayed Goombella buffer, the first thing we need to do is kill the left ember in this room until it drops an item. On the English version of the game, this has about a 40% chance to happen with Item Hog, and ups to 60% if the Ember is holding an item. We need this item in order to get tech storage. Once the item is on screen, we then need to position ourselves correctly with the item. We need to line ourselves up with the third red archway from the left in this room. Then toss the item right. Keep using Koops to grab the item until this happens. We are doing this so that the item bounces into the Ember's movement area. Once the item gets tossed right, we then need to switch to Goombella and do what's called a delayed Goombella buffer into the item. This process involves doing a Goombella buffer into the item while Goombella is off screen. To get Goombella off screen, we have to prevent her from following us. To do this, we need to do neutral jumps until we are right beside the item, then do a Goombella buffer. If done correctly, Goombella will teleport to us and then we will pick up the item. Doing the neutral jumps required for this is much harder on English than it is on JP, as English followers are programmed a little bit differently. The key is to try and jump as soon as you hit the ground and only move when you're in the air. By closing this item menu, Goombella will start to tattle. We need to stand here with this tattle up until the Ember comes and triggers a battle. The reason why the Ember can move in this scenario is due to the fact that Goombella's tattle doesn't set flags properly while she is teleporting to Mario. During this 1 frame window of Goombella moving, we can pick up the item. By closing the item menu, we set the flags on enemies being able to move again. By running from this fight, we then have tech storage successfully. Once we have tech storage, we then need to get Yoshi on the back seam. We can do this really easily by doing the old method of getting Yoshi on the seam from the previous version of Palace Skip for English. When switching partners, for some reason we are able to push them through corners if they haven't moved since the switch. By switching to Yoshi right near the corner, as long as he never follows Mario, we can push him into the corner, getting him onto the back seam. Now comes the tedious portion. We have to walk Yoshi all the way to the 4th red archway in this room. If we just hold right, Yoshi will clip back in bounds, so we have to manage his position while we are moving right. The best way to do this is with really small movements while in paper mode. This gives us more precision and prevents Yoshi from falling off the back seam. As we are making our small movements right, Yoshi will slowly start to clip back in bounds, so we have to go back and manage his position by pushing him back into the wall every so often. I like to tap upright 4 or 5 times, then loop around and push Yoshi back in the wall. It's important to be very careful at this section because you don't want him to clip out and have to redo this. You'll know that you've screwed up if you see Yoshi's shadow. Once you get to the 4th red archway, you want to position Mario right in front of Yoshi. This next part is the Yoshi teleport, which is the most precise part of this trick. The Yoshi teleport is the most complicated part of this trick, and is the tightest window for any trick in the game. The Yoshi teleport requires you to close the Goombella text box, followed by holding A to buffer a Yoshi hover, then X is pressed on a specific frame during the sequence of the text box disappearing. This will allow Mario to teleport to a Y coordinate capable of first striking the Ember while remaining out of bounds. This frame will only work if Yoshi has fallen low enough prior to executing the teleport, as we have to go through the floor. There's a ton that can go wrong with this trick due to the precision needed, so I think the best way is to describe the trick in a handful of frames at a time and explain what can go wrong at each step along the way. First off, we need to get Yoshi out of paper mode, since we can't ride him while he's in it. However, once we do that, Yoshi will start to fall off the seam, so we don't have a lot of time to work with. Start by waiting for the Ember to notice Mario and Yoshi. Just before he gets to this pillar, let go of R and pause. This needs to be done incredibly fast. Ideally, you want to pause of the frame after you let go of R. We want the Ember in this position to get ready for the next step, as we want to pause quickly so that Yoshi doesn't fall too far. Next, we use a healing item on Yoshi. This will force him out of paper mode, allowing us to teleport to him. You want to see the item clipping through the wall. If you don't see the item or you see it near the floor, you've paused too late. After you use the item, you need to pause extremely fast again. Ideally, you want to pause on the second frame after healing. Now you need to perform the Yoshi teleport, and this is a frame-perfect teleport. You need to advance the text box by pressing A or B in the pause menu, then close it. On a specific frame after closing the pause menu, while holding A, you must press X and hold right. You've done it right if you clip Mario halfway through the floor and first strike the Ember. Once the battle is over, you must hold a specific angle depending on how far right you are. Normally, this is going to be around upright. In my case, I walked right before teleporting, meaning I was really far right. So instead, I held up left. This angle is needed to land and take the loading zone after the teleport. Holding a bad angle can cause you to miss the loading zone, which due to the complexity of this trick, would really suck. We have a picture here showing us where the loading zone is in comparison to the red archway. It should be noted that the platform is not loaded during Palace Skip, meaning we don't actually have this much space to land on. So what can go wrong? Basically, if you don't follow what I've outlined, the trick will fail. If you straight up miss the X-Press, you won't teleport to the right height. If you don't pause fast enough, you might miss the Ember even if you get the right X-Press. If you don't hold the right angle, you might miss the loading zone. A well-known timing method for hitting the X-Press comes from Soric that I strongly recommend. If you time SpongeBob's "Welcome to Our Club" song, where they say "Welcome Squidward" over and over, it has the perfect beat to unpause and press X.
Well, since you're here, Squidward, we'll give you the new member initiation. Are you ready, Patrick?
Ready!
Welcome to our club! Welcome to our club! Welcome, Squidward! Welcome, Squidward! Welcome, Squidward! Welcome, Squidward! Welcome, Squidward!
Zephyrus and Piston Miner have worked very hard to give us a practice code that can be used with Homebrew and Nintendo to be able to show us some pretty important stuff in this room. By holding X plus Z for 6 seconds in this room, we're able to toggle some variables that could help us out. There are 5 different variables that are going to be on the screen that show us some pretty useful information. PST keeps track of how many frames have passed between using an item and opening the pause menu. It also keeps track of how many frames have passed between leaving the pause menu and pressing the X button. It is started upon unpausing, in which it is first reset to 0 before it begins counting. Holding Y for 2 seconds will manually reset this. Item timer keeps track of how much time is left until the item disappears. 1,000 units equals 1 second. Fat Emmy keeps track of the Y coordinate of the Phantom Ember used during the Yoshi teleport. Par Y keeps track of your partner's Y coordinate. And Mar Pause keeps track of Mario's X, Y, and Z coordinates. These can be helpful when practicing the trick. I plan on releasing a tutorial video for both Dolphin and console on how to install these codes in the future, so be on the lookout for that. For the time being, if you have any questions about it, make sure to join our Discord and we'll be sure to help you out. The codes can do a couple of other things for us too, including giving the Ember a 100% drop rate on a sleepy sheet. The codes also allow us to repeatedly tattle with Goombella, allowing us to get tech storage without even needing the item. This can be useful if you just want to practice the teleport, instead of having to do the delayed Goombella buffer over and over again. The codes can also allow us to save and load coordinates of Mario and his partners. This can be a good safety net for the seam walk in case you mess up. The codes also allow us to remove and duplicate items so we can keep making healing items to keep trying the Yoshi teleport. By using all of these, we can create a really interesting environment where we can repeatedly try this really hard trick over and over, thanks to the hard work of 2 individuals. And that's Palace Skip for English. I'm sorry this took so long to get out. I really wanted to put a lot of work and a lot of energy into it to make it a really, really good guide, because it's such a hard trick. I really wanted to show everything that could go wrong and everything that could happen, and just give you guys a really good tutorial that, you know, anyone could follow. I hope you guys don't go too crazy trying to practice this trick. It is very, very difficult. Be prepared to spend a lot of time, and be prepared to mess it up a lot, and that's okay. Be sure to follow my Twitter and my stream so you guys know what I'm doing all the time. And I'll see you guys later. Bye!